I want to talk about kind of raising our kids in a secular culture. I speak to a lot of people every year. I think I speak to more people about pornography than any other human, like in live settings, which is a weird thing. If aliens ever came to Earth and...
You could get in the Guinness for that.
I could. Yeah. I should write to them. But I see like the destruction that goes on in these young people. And it's leading me to become more vocal about the fact that I think many parents should face the fact that homeschooling might just be their best option. Mm-hmm. And I want to get your take on this and your honest take on this. So feel free to push back, because this is something I'm trying to think through, and I don't want to lay a burden on parents that's unnecessary. But it seems to me that if you're a good parent who doesn't give their child a smartphone because you love them, if you then send them to a school, they'll be ostracized by the time they're like 8 or 9. They'll be something like a social leper, where they won't be engaged in the conversation that everybody's having, mm-hmm. and they're going to feel completely and utterly like an outcast. And I'm not saying maybe that's possible, but I'm of the opinion that no parent should be buying their children a smartphone. I think if porn didn't exist, then I still wouldn't buy my child a smartphone, because I'd like her to learn how to journal, not figure out which filter makes her skin look good or something like that. Like, I want to raise substantive children. And so I'm finding it increasingly difficult to defend even Catholic schools, like typical run-of-the-mill Catholic schools.
Yeah.
Again, push back on me. I want to learn from you here. I don't know what your opinion is on this. I haven't heard you talk about it much.
I think that's a completely stupid point of view.
How dare you?
No, I agree. Well, so many Catholic schools are of course, Catholic in name only. And that's the case. You know, I know growing up in the Baltimore area, there were quite a few really expensive, prestigious, quote unquote, Catholic schools. Most of them culturally, it's kind of what you're talking about. It's just the same exact culture as public school. Really no difference. And so if you're a devout Christian family, to spend all your money to send your kid to that just doesn't make any sense.
My fear, though, is that the phone is enculturating children.
Yeah.
Whether or not the families are good and the school is a good Catholic school. My fear is you're still sending your child into an environment like that.
No, I think it's a really, I agree. I think it's a good point. I think the defense that people offer for giving their kids smartphones, the defenses are all pitiful in my opinion. I've never heard a good one. Because one of the first ones you always hear is, well, I need to be able to get a hold of them and for safety reasons or whatever. Well, okay. First of all, you can give them a flip phone. I have no problem. You want to give your 9-year-old a flip phone? Fine, because that's all they can do is make a phone call. Yep. It's like having a pay phone around in their pocket. Who cares? No problem there, and that solves the problem. They can get a hold of you anytime. And now, of course, there was the dark old ages where all you had was payphones and kids went out and we survived. So I don't think it's even necessary. But if you want to do that, fine. There's no reason why your kid has to have internet access carried around in his pocket at all hours of the day. But you're right. It's completely changed the culture for children. And it does make them an outcast if they don't have it, because they can't participate in the culture. It also means that when they come home from school, they don't escape that culture. They can't. It used to be that you go home from school and you're done with that, and now you're with your family. And
if you were being bullied, you had somewhere to kind of be loved, safe haven. Yeah.
But now you bring your friends and you bring all of that trash and garbage with you in your pocket home, and you can't get away from it. And I know the standard cliched complaint is that people say, well, back in my day, we used to go and run out in the woods, and kids don't do that anymore.
My kids do.
Right. And so do my kids. But it's true, though, that a lot of kids don't. And that is a big problem, because that's so essential.
Yeah.
Play, going out and figuring out how to entertain yourself. My kids will go run outside at our house here, and they're running around and they're using their imagination and playing games and stuff. And the fact that so many kids don't do that, I think, is really disturbing.
Yeah, the freedom to be bored, to develop an interior life. I had someone once say that the interior life is that inner conversation that goes on within us when we're alone. But if we're constantly plugged into the internet, we're never alone. We have other people's voices and opinions being pumped into ours, and we don't develop to be like a solid, interesting human being, I don't think. That's my fear.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's actually one of the big, I've come to believe that's one of the big dangers of the internet, is how it deprives you of having an interior life, an inner life. Because the internet does all your thinking for you, and I know I can fall into this, especially because of what I do for a living. I have to be on the internet, but you have a thought, you think about something, and then you say, "Oh, I want to go look that up," or "I'm going to Google it," and all of a sudden now you've given over your thought process to Google or Wikipedia or YouTube or something, and you're just going to follow it around. It's going to just give you a bunch of facts and information and everything. And then eventually you're going to forget about that, and now you're just entertaining yourself, soaking in all of these images and everything. When if you hadn't done that, you would have had that thought, and you're thinking about it, and you're dwelling on it, and you're developing ideas and everything, and you're becoming an interesting person who has a perspective, has a point of view. What I've noticed with a lot of people these days, they don't really have their own perspective or point of view. It's they just inherit it from cable news or from the internet. If you ask them what they think about something, they'll give you the standard, depending on where they are. If they're Republican, they'll give you that, and you kind of know exactly what they're going to say.
But if you were then to dig into that, as you said earlier, well, what do you mean by that?
They have nothing.
You might have nothing there. Yeah.
There's nothing under that. It's just that they have that response, that script that they follow, and it can be kind of disturbing sometimes when you get used to it, because you almost know exact phrases that are going to come out. Depending on what
do you experience this on your speaking tours when you encounter people who are kind of big Ben Shapiro fans and they start giving you their thoughts, or do you find that they tend to be typically more well informed than the regular crowd?
Well, of course, if the Daily Wire fans are some of the most
I wanted to give you that opportunity. Yeah,
some of the most interesting, intelligent people in the world. Aside from them, though,
those other idiots.
Yeah, aside from that, I think generally you find. As the way it should be as people, we shouldn't fall so neatly all the time into these two separate camps, and there are two opinions on this subject, and I believe that or I believe that. If you're a real person, you should have all kinds of different views, and your views change over time because you're thinking about it and you're back and forth on some things, and that's okay. And you don't really fit neatly into boxes quite so much. I think that's the way it is if you're a real person who's actually thought about these things.
I think that's why people in the conservative camp have a lot of respect for people like Dave Rubin. He doesn't fall neatly into one side or the other. He's living in a homosexual marriage, but he also believes in things that people on the left wouldn't believe.
Yeah, and there are a few people, at least in new media on the internet, that have a reputation that way, which I do have a lot of respect for. At least that you're just thinking about it. And
what's the most controversial view you hold as a conservative that people who are Daily Wire subscribers wouldn't necessarily agree with?
Let me think about that. Well, I don't like dogs. That's a big one. But
are you allergic, or you just don't like them in general?
I have a whole thing. I think people are way too obsessed with their pets. So I'm very
agreed. Yeah,
I'm anti-pet, and that gets me into trouble. But maybe that doesn't really count. I think things like student loans, issues like that. I guess the standard thing for conservatives is to say, well, the government has no role in it, and you're deep in student loan debt. It's your fault. Pay it off, kind of thing. I've come to believe that maybe government does have a role in addressing this issue, which doesn't quite fit neatly into the box. So that's kind of what we were talking about before, of the common good conservatism versus libertarian thing. Does government have a role in some of these issues actually? And I think that it does. So, yeah, I've been back and forth on different issues, things like capital punishment and that sort of thing. And with the way it works these days, if you find yourself wavering, you don't know exactly how you feel about something. I know for me, it can make you almost uncomfortable. You feel like there's something wrong, like you have to pick a side. But maybe it's okay not to pick a side.
I like that. Yeah.
Maybe it's okay to I don't really know. Something like capital punishment. I've been back and forth on it, and I think I'm this way, and then someone presents an argument. And I think,
like that too now. Yeah.
Yeah. You think, well, maybe there's just good arguments on both sides, and that's okay. And so you're just not sure. It's okay to be not sure on some of these things.
Hey, if you enjoyed that clip, you will absolutely love the full interview, so click right there to enjoy the whole thing. Also, a big thanks to these groups who made that interview possible. Learn more in the show notes below about these guys. They're absolutely incredible, and honored to have them as sponsors. Oh, and also, if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe and then that bell button. That way YouTube will be forced to let you know when we put out more content.